Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 20 of the year and episode number 3 of the Pro Motocross season of the Unsung Heroes, where, of course, we will be spotlighting all of the top privateer and non factory racers who scored points on Saturday in Lakewood, Colorado. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We are, of course, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Be sure to listen, follow along, subscribe at the Stire Sound official on Instagram, the Stire Sound page on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, my personal YouTube channel, Trey Stire, where you can find all of my podcasts and content. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. And it was a very challenging weekend for some racers in Thunder Valley. Of course, elevation always present, always in the headlines. We will be speaking with a 450 privateer here in just a moment. And of course, we will be running down the top performers from both classes, plus some of the standouts from WMX and up in Canada this weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and without further ado, let's hop into our interview. We are kicking things off on the Unsung Heroes of Thunder Valley with a man who scored his first career 450 point over here in America on Saturday. He's been competing throughout the year with the MotoWhips racing team, and he got a 21st in the second moto to put a point on the board. From Sweden, please welcome Anton Nordstrom to the Unsung Heroes. What's up, man? Congrats on the solid ride, and I'm sure you have to be stoked after your performance this weekend.
So yeah, I'm stoked. Going into this season, my goal was to take points in every single moto, and then I showed up at the first round, and I realized how freaking stacked the field was, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be pretty hard, but yeah, we kept fighting, and I took my first point of the season this weekend, and yeah, I'm excited, and just gonna keep working to take points every moto moving forward.
We'll start off by talking about your weekend. Of course, Thunder Valley, a very technical and challenging course. You have the elevation, of course, that everybody talks about, the thinner air. Take me through your weekend and your days. Of course, most people got to ride press day. I don't know if you were one of them on Friday, but a lot of folks getting to test out their bike setups and to test their altitude start maps and everything like that. Of course, 450s race first this weekend with the NBC broadcast, so that was a little bit different for you guys. But take me through your weekend at Thunder Valley, how the day progressed on Saturday from qualifying to each of your motos, and how you ended up scoring your first career motocross point.
So yeah, Friday they had open practice for everyone, so everyone got to ride, which I was very grateful for. So a big shout out to AMA or MX Sports or whoever made that call to get us practice on Friday. They just makes it way safer for us riders, so we don't have to pretty much go out blind on Saturday trying to put down a fast lap. Uh, Luckily we had that practice and I was able to change my gearing on the bike and so on because I haven't raced in elevation before uh, outdoors, so I didn't know like how the bike would react and everything. So that Friday session was definitely helpful for me. And Saturday during qualifying, I felt pretty good. And the second qualifier, I was on a heater that I knew was going to be a really good lap. But like one corner to go, I cased a jump and had a little crash. So didn't really put down a good lap, but I made it straight into the motos at least, which I was thankful for. And no one wants to go to the LCQ because you never know what's going to happen. And first moto, I don't know what position I was in, but I was like mid pack somewhere. But second lap, I hit a kicker going down one of the hills, and I nose wheeled off the track into a fence, and pretty much went from completely dead last up to 28th position, something like that. I was riding really good, so I was happy with my riding. And then second moto, I was quite okay uh, position wise out of the second corner, but got pushed off the track, hit one of the poles next to the track, so I dropped back a little. But yeah, made a charge and worked myself up to 20th or 21st. Got passed by Freddie in the end of the moto, and yeah, finished 21st in that moto. And yeah, I was super stoked to get my first point. Of course, I want to be inside the top 20, but yeah, a point is a point. So I'm happy, and I made quite a lot of progress during these first 3 rounds. So I'm happy with everything, and just gotta keep building.
A little bit of Swedish flavor there. You mentioned Freddie Norn. He's closing in on the all-time 450 motocross start record, but for yourself, I heard you mention that it was your first time really racing at elevation and feeling the effects of the thinner air. For people who haven't had the chance to race in those kind of conditions or race in a state like Colorado where everything is so high up, how would you describe the elevation and the challenges of racing up there to someone who's never done it before?
The biggest difference was the bike, like how slow the bike got. Uh, like yeah, first practice I was out there, I was like felt like I was on a 250 pretty much. And so we did some gearing changes, and that helped quite a lot. And then also like on your breathing, you I didn't really think about it like walking around during the day, but then when I started riding, I could really feel like it was affecting my lungs. And so even if it wasn't that hot, it was still pretty like challenging on your body uh, because of the thinner air. But yeah, so your your conditioning definitely gets worse, and then your power in the bike definitely gets worse. So that was the main two things that you feel.
This year you've been competing with the MotoWhips racing crew, and some people might not be really familiar with your team. It's a pretty new effort. Last year they were making some main events in Supercross with Justin Starling. This year you've been competing throughout the year. You came back from an injury late in the Supercross season or at the beginning of the motocross season. It's been some ups and downs, but of course, like I mentioned, your first point on Saturday, you've been steadily building throughout the motocross season so far. Talk about how you got in touch with the MotoWhips crew, how you became a member of the organization, and then helping them grow as well because they're still a very new effort and you're still pretty new in America as well.
Yeah, so for Supercross, my plan was to race for the Stan Benson race team, but pretty much like 1.5, 2 weeks prior to A1, they told me that they aren't going racing. So I was like, oh, okay. So I was pretty much standing there with nothing. And I got a call from a sponsor telling me that, yeah, MotoWhips had a spot open. So I made a call to Justin, and yeah, we did a test ride, and yeah, I got the ride for the Supercross season. And yeah, during that time, I were not supposed to ride a dirt bike because only like 5, 6 weeks prior to that, I had a pretty bad crash and punctured or lacerated both my lungs. I lacerated my liver. I broke ribs. I broke my shoulder blade. I had a crack, and yeah, broken back. And I was riding already 5 weeks, 6 weeks after that, which I shouldn't have done. But I was just I pretty much told myself I have to race A1. So I lined up at A1 with the MotorWhips team. Didn't really have any time testing on the bike and everything. So that was a rough first round, but yeah, I was improving during the Supercross season. I finished sixth in the LCQ in Glendale. So it's like, okay, from now on, I'm gonna be a main event guy. I'm making steps forward. And then in Texas, I had a little mishap in the first time qualifier and broke my wrist. So yeah, was off the bike for pretty much 3 months after that. But yeah, back on the bike now and building, and was able to do the first 3 rounds of outdoors.
Speaking of the team, not just a great day for you, but your teammate Cody Walker also getting into the motos for the first time. He was just a spot short in the LCQ, but due to Justin Barsha sitting things out, he got in and was able to compete. Talk about how much the morale was boosted for the team because I got to imagine with you getting in the points, Cody making his first start, that had to be a huge day in celebration for your team after everything was over.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big step forward for the team. It's been a rough year for the team, for sure. During Supercross, me getting injured, Dayton Briggs getting injured, just yeah, a rough year. So me taking their first point of the season, this weekend was definitely a relief for me and a relief for the team. And then, yeah, Cody Walker, he was the truck driver and mechanic for all of Supercross, pretty much made the Supercross season possible for the team. He is racing for the team now outdoors, and he made his first moto. And yeah, I got so happy for the guy. He was definitely questioning himself after the first two rounds, and was pretty disappointing in himself. So see him, yeah, how happy he was when he got to ride and after the race too. Just yeah, it made me smile. He's a really really good guy, so I'm happy for him for sure.
I saw on your social medias after you performed at Thunder Valley on Saturday, you were immediately back in California and training the next generation and serving as a coach for these up and coming racers. Talk about that as well. And I know a couple months ago, for those who listen to the show weekly, I talked to John Short about his role coaching some of the next generation riders. But man, you hopped immediately from the races to going back out at the test track and helping some of these rising stars, these young kids who are getting their feet wet in the sport, helping them get a base behind them and learn some of the skills.
Yeah, exactly. I am gonna do a race next weekend in Colorado as well. So I parked my van up there, hopped on a flight, flew straight back here to California to coach my clients to get ready for Mammoth that is next week. And I mean, yeah, racing is my number one passion, but being able to give back to the younger generation and coaching is, yeah, one of my biggest passions, and I love it. So it for sure was a toll on the body to, yeah, fly straight back and then straight up to go to the track in 100 degrees weather and coach all day. But yeah, I mean, I love it. And the boys were making huge progress during the day. So yeah, I was just super happy with the weekend and everything, and was super happy that I was able to come back in time to help those guys out to get better so they are ready for Mammoth next week.
You are one of many racers right now who have come over from Europe in the last few years, from guys who used to race MXGP all the time, like Valentin Guillot, like Mikkel Harup, to some others. It seems like there's been a ton of talent coming over from Europe, even from places like Australia as well. So many overseas racers really trying to chase the American dream. And I've talked to you before in the past on this series for the written articles, and I know that you had some issues with the visa for a while, but you've been in America for the last year or so, and you've really been working hard from, like you've mentioned, racing to coaching, even serving as a mechanic, I think, some last year. Talk about your journey to America for those who might not be aware and why you decided to come over to the U.S. as well as the journey and how things have gone so far, because there have definitely been signs of success. At a Supercross main event last year, you qualified straight in a Triple Crown, which is very hard to do, but you've had some bumps and bruises along the way, but you are still out there representing your home country of Sweden every single weekend. So take the people who might not be aware of your journey through racing in Sweden and in Europe before heading over to America and some of the ups and downs you've had since arriving here in the States.
So yeah, back in 2021, I was racing MXGPs and had a filling ride for a Yamaha team. And I pretty much thought like, okay, I've reached my dream. I got the opportunity to race for his team and everything. But a couple of rounds in, I realized like this is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be here. I was pretty much miserable because I was pretty much lost in everything. And then I just went back to my childhood dream, which was racing Supercross here in America. So yeah, after that, I took a step back. I just did races in home in Sweden, some races in Europe and everything, trying to collect money, working during the week to be able to come over here to America. And then in 2024, I flew over here to do some Supercross rounds. Did pretty good in considering like how little time I had on Supercross, and got in contact with a team came back the next year, raced GT Arena Cross, and then did Supercross in Arlington and qualified for my first main event in the 250 class. Straight into the mains during a triple crown. And then about 2 weeks later, I tore my Achilles, and I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I tried to figure it out for a couple of weeks, and then I pretty much ran out of money. Was just gonna fly back to Sweden, but I got in contact with Stan Benson Racing, and they needed a mechanic. So worked as a mechanic the full summer, is to uh, make money, and was able to stay here in America. And and then started preparing for Supercross during the fall. Went over to Europe to do a couple of races and meet my family and everything. And had a really bad crash over there. And like I mentioned earlier in this interview, I lacerated my lungs, lacerated liver, broken ribs, broken shoulder blade, broken back. So it was pretty rough. And then I did Supercross and broke my wrist. And now I'm back again on the bike, and trying to be a little more calm on the bike and take my time and just keep building. So I'm not doing the same mistakes I've done in the past. So that's pretty much my journey. And of course, it's been a lot of bumps on the road, and a lot of times where I'm like, okay, what am I doing? But I've figured it out, and right now I'm here and living the dream.
I know that you've got a West Coast based team with the MotoWhips crew. You won't be doing every single round of the Nationals, but what does the summer look like for Anton Nordstrom? Will we be seeing you at any more AMA Nationals throughout the year? And how can people find you as well and to follow along with your journey?
Yeah, so my plan right now, I will do a race in Colorado next weekend, and then I'm racing Mammoth Motocross the following weekend. And I'm trying to use these 2 weeks, trying to work as much as I can, and get more sponsors so I can go out and do Red Bud and Southwick. And if I'm able to do that, I'm probably going to do Spring Creek and Washougal on the way back to the West Coast. Um, but everything depends on how much sponsorship money I can gather, if I can make that possible. Um, I need about 6 grand in total to make that happen, so which I think is absolutely possible for me to uh, pull together. So hopefully I do. We'll do 4 more rounds of pro motocross, and if you guys want to follow me on my journey, my Instagram is Anton Nordstrom, and my YouTube is Anton Nordstrom TV, and yeah.
Before we conclude, feel free to give a shout out to some of those sponsors who have helped you out. We've, of course, mentioned the MotoWhips Racing team. Give a thank you, go ahead, to some of these people who have helped you throughout the year because I know there have been some people in your corner helping you get to all of these races and realize the American dream.
Yeah, I just want to make a special thank you to MotoWhips for believing in me and making this possible. And I'm working really, really hard to be able to deliver results for them. So when I'm out on the track, I'm not only racing for myself, I'm racing for a team. I'm racing for Justin that has the team. And then a massive thank you to Billy Slusher from Steel Core for helping me out. He's a great friend, a mentor to me, and also a sponsor, helping me get to the races. So special thank you to him. And then all my other sponsors is make this possible. Like, it's definitely a team effort, and you can't do this by yourself. It's a very, very hard sport to do, and but that's also why I love it. So thank you everyone that makes this possible.
Thank you, Anton, for joining the show and sharing your insight with us. As he mentioned, go follow him, Anton Nordstrom, on Instagram, Anton Nordstrom TV on YouTube, to follow along with his journey. Hope to see you back at some of these nationals throughout the summer, and best of luck the rest of the year, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again to Anton Nordstrom for appearing on our show this week. MotoWhips Racing, his squad of choice, and he should be back, hopefully, for a few nationals throughout the summer. Now we'll go ahead and get into things starting with the 250 class, and there weren't a lot of 250 racers inside the points this week. 22 riders in total in the 250 class were able to pick up points. Only 5 of them were privateer and non-factory racers. Starting off with a new face at the top of the order, that would be Derek Kelly on the MX6 Racing Kawasaki. For the first time as an organization, they were on top of the privateer order. Shout out to Derek, a great weekend putting things together. 1911 for 14th overall. It was a tale of two motos for Derek. He lost some ground early in the day in the first moto, 6 spots to be exact. But in Moto 2, things were better. He started off in 15th, ended up climbing to 11th. And once again, for the second week in a row, Kelly was one of the best racers in terms of consistency during Moto number 2. Last week, after spending the race as the most consistent 250 racer in terms of lap times, Kelly was the second most consistent racer in terms of lap times in Moto 2 at Thunder Valley before taking his 11th place finish, 1911 for 14th overall. And as of right now, Derek is currently 18th in the SMX playoff standings in the seeding, so he is in position to potentially score his first ever automatic berth, which kind of hard to believe because he has been a solid racer out here for years and he has plenty of playoff experience, but as a wild card and not as an automatic qualifier. Speaking of someone looking for their first playoff appearance as an automatic berth, Carson Mumford on the AEO Power Sports KTM machine. He wasn't quite on his level of pace from Fox Raceway and Hangtown, but he scored points in each moto regardless. 18, 16 were his moto scores, and he is currently 14th in the playoffs seeding. Of course, Mumford was a wild card in 2023 when he spent time with the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki crew, raced again as a wild card in 2024 for Quad Lock Honda. Now this year, Mumford on pace to potentially score his first automatic berth into the playoffs. One rider who's no stranger to the playoffs as an automatic berth, Dylan Schwartz, Toyota Redlands, Bar X Yamaha. Pretty similar weekend from his race at Fox Raceway as well, because Schwartz started the day off with some points. 12th place finish. He gained 6 spots after the green flag. His best run so far of the 2026 outdoor season. However, he dropped out of Moto 2 early, a DNF, 40th place for Dylan Schwartz. Hopefully he is okay and ready to go for High Point. His teammate Lux Turner was a few spots back. 22nd overall. He was actually the last guy in the order who scored points. Pretty quiet weekend from Lux. 21-17. But hey, he didn't have any crazy issues or bad luck like he did at Hangtown, so that was a bit better. And then in between those two, Max Voland from Club MX Yamaha, the lone Club MX rider at both Hangtown and Thunder Valley. Hunter Yoder will be back this weekend at High Point. But Max Voland, 17th and 19th were his finishes. Uncharacteristic weekend for Voland. He's usually in and around that top 10. Heading east, he should be back on track. Let's see if he's able to improve and put this bad week behind him. Now moving into some of the top WMX competitors, and once again it was the Lachlan Turner show. Another 1-1 performance from the two-time defending champion. She was unstoppable once again. A 27-second victory on Friday. Very impressive performance. And of course she won once again on Saturday, besting Charlie Cannon. For Cannon, it was a 2-2 run. A little bit better, of course, she had the penalty and lost a position in the first moto from Hangtown. But Cannon, she's right there. She's really good on these rough tracks. She excels later in the afternoon. High Point, she had some experience running an area qualifier early in the year. Maybe that will give her the edge she needs to potentially take a moto victory and maybe even an overall victory away from Lachlan Turner. And of course, the other lady on the podium from Australia, Taylor McCutcheon. What a performance from the Aussie. 3-4 for third overall on her Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki machine. She was dealing with tonsillitis. Friday was brutal temperatures for the WMX race. It was 92 degrees in Lakewood, Colorado on Friday, and she pulled off the track after her valiant effort, third place finish, scored the whole shot, led a couple laps, and then she pulled off, and you could hear her saying, "My lungs are burning." What a valiant effort from McCutcheon. Then on Saturday, fourth place, she held third for the majority of the race. Michaela Nielsen got her on the last lap, but she was still good enough for the podium. Taylor's first overall podium here in the United States. Of course, only her second race in the U.S. since coming over for the WMX Championship this season. And speaking of newer faces, we had the world champion, the European champion of WMX, join the series this weekend. Lotte van Drunen from the Netherlands aboard her Yamaha Slade Racing HGS exhausts, helping her out. It was a stock bike at Thunder Valley. Not ideal considering Thunder Valley is at altitude, at elevation. You need some extra power up in those hills. But Van Drunen, bad starts in both motos, especially the first moto. She started deep in 20th place, had to work her way through the pack. Then she ended the afternoon with 4-6 scores. So Van Drunen has some work to do, but hopefully she will be better for High Point. Shout out to McCutcheon battling through tonsillitis to get her first podium, and Van Drunen battling through that stock bike and giving it her all in her first appearance in WMX in America. Hopefully we see more from them this weekend, which will be the third round of the first 3 round stretch. They will be off for a while, and then they will resume in the last stretch of the men's season. So Unadilla, Budds Creek, Ironman, those will be the final 3 races for the women this summer. Let's see what they can do at the Country Club of Pro Motocross this weekend. Now, some quick news and notes from the 250 class, those who are just outside of the points. And we are going to be talking about a trio of KTM riders, starting off with Jeremy Fapani. He was rocking some new gear this weekend. He's been racing in 7 gear for a long time, but it seems like that brand is shutting down reasonably soon. And Fapani showed up in Thunder Valley with FXR threads. He was so close to points in each moto, 22-22, 1 spot shy in each race. Wonder if he'll be able to rebound at High Point. The second KTM we'll be mentioning, Russell Bucheri, who joined us earlier in the year after the Philadelphia Supercross. He's pitting with the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program this summer. This is the first time he's raced the opening West Coast stretch of Pro Motocross. Traditionally, he joined in the series at High Point. Of course, High Point, the site of his pro debut back in 2024. So this weekend will be 2 years since Bucheri entered the pro ranks, but he went 30-31 in his first trip to Thunder Valley and won the consolation race. And speaking of the consolation race, it was one of the rare consies where 5 racers ended up transferring to the motos. Austin Forkner withdrew from competition, and that put Texas native Jesse Jacobson into the field, the number 999 Triple J racing machine. He's on a black KTM, standing out a little bit from the other orange machines. 35-36 for 35th overall. That was Jesse's scores, his first national since 2024 at Spring Creek in Millville, Minnesota. Congrats to Jesse for getting back into the field, and that does it for your 250 class and your WMX stars as well. Now we move into the 450 ranks, and it was a wealth of international talent scoring points in the 450 division. Out of the 9 privateers and non-factory racers who scored points at Thunder Valley in the 450 ranks, 5 different nations represented in that group, including Norway. Cornelius Tondell leading the way for the first time, 14-13 for 13th overall, his best career finish in America so far. Of course, only his 6th pro motocross start. Here in the U.S., he was around the top 15 all day, and he ended the day 1 spot higher than Hangtown. He dropped the hammer early on in Moto 2. He crossed the whole shot line in 39th, but he was up to 18th at the green flag. 21 spots in a single lap, a very impressive climb for Tondell, and he settled into his pace and scored a good bit of points. Great showing by Tondell, putting Bubba Pauly's ISRT organization as the top 450 privateer team. Just behind him in the overall results, Valentin Guillot on the Gizmo Racing Yamaha. He's stacking points, continuing to get healthier. 17-14 on Saturday. Nothing crazy that jumps off the page, but still moving in the right direction. 13 points at round 3 for Guillot. Unfortunately, one rider who moved in the wrong direction, Christian Craig, he had a great first moto, ninth place, past Cooper Webb late in the going to move up, but late in the day, first full lap of the second moto, Craig ended up going down pretty hard and dropping out of the race, 40th place. But it seems like Craig is okay, and he should be racing this weekend in High Point. Glad the veteran wasn't too hurt from that accident, but he'll be back and ready to roll at High Point. Grant Harlan did take a big step forward. The KMR Champion Tool Storage KTM machine number 62. It was a wild weekend, but a bad weekend at Hangtown. He went flying off his bike in one of the motos, did not score a point, struggled 33-29, I believe, were his scores at Hangtown, but he stepped back closer to his usual range. Points in both motos, 17th overall for Hardog. Speaking of getting back closer to their usual spots, Freddie Noren points in both motos for the first time this summer, which sounds weird to say given Freddie's great track record outdoors. Another one of the Gizmo Racing Yamaha guys, and representing another nation, of course, Craig and Harlan from the United States. Noren from Sweden, he went 16-19 during the motos, and he's still on pace, as I mentioned last week, to set the new record for the most Pro Motocross 450 class starts. He could do that toward the end of the season. Mitchell Harrison points in both motos again on the Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki 21-17. He was running around 15th in the second moto, but unfortunately hit a rider and went down, made some contact. He has led the way for the PRMX boys in all 6 motos so far this season, and he got better as last year progressed. Things are looking that way as well in 2026. Lorenzo Locurcio and the Wildcat Race Team Gas crew back in the points for the first time this year. Of course, Lorenzo missed all of Supercross. He would have raced in the 250 East Division, but he had a preseason practice crash that left him with a broken vertebrae and fractured ribs. Braden Aylerman ended up being the only Wildcat rider in Supercross. He's competing in the 250 class of Pro Motocross as well. Locurcio, of course, aboard the 450 for outdoors. He returned to racing a couple weeks ago at Fox Raceway, and he moved up 6 spots in Moto 2 to finish 20th, scoring his first 2 points of 2026. And of course, Locurcio from Venezuela, putting the continent of South America back into the points as well. And first points of the summer as well for Justin Rodbell. Summer of Rodbell may be starting to take shape. Of course, Justin competing for SLR Honda. He was another guy who was 250 West in Supercross, 450 outdoors. It's been a couple of tough weekends to start, but a 20th place in Moto 1, much more indicative of Rodbell's usual outdoor pace. And then, of course, we mentioned him earlier in the show. We actually interviewed him earlier in the show. Anton Nordstrom on the MotoWhips KTM. 28-21 for the Swedish Fish. Anton scoring his first career AMA motocross point. He did score a point last year at the Arlington Supercross, and now he has a 450 MX point to go along with it. MotoWhips Racing back in the points as well. And as he mentioned, as we move to some notes from outside of the points, his teammate Cody Walker qualifying for the motos for the first time as an alternate. He was the first guy out of the transfer spots in the consolation race, but he gets in and is able to race the final moto. 34th to end the day in his first career 450 MX race. Shout out to Cody and what he's been doing helping out the crew over at the MotoWhips team. John Short was back in action this weekend. Several racers back in action this weekend as the series starts to head east. Of course, Short will be doing select races this summer. Number 90 on a Honda. We talked to him after the LCQ Challenge at Salt Lake City. 31st in the first moto, struggled a bit there, but 23rd to end the day. That was a bit closer to what we expect out of John Short. We'll see how many more rounds he will be competing at this summer. Stefan Rubini returned to action, another international racer for that Gizmo Racing Yamaha team. He is from France. Stefan raced a couple outdoor races in the 2023 season, and he was competing early in the year in Supercross, but he got injured very early on at round 2 in San Diego, tore his Achilles. So it was a pretty long layoff for Stefan Rubini. Missed 15 out of the 17 rounds, and then the first two nationals. But he was back in action this weekend. Nothing crazy results wise, but great for Stefan to be back on track 32-29. Let's see how he can improve in the next few weeks. Jace Kessler was also back in action aboard a Gas 450 after running a KTM 250 for the Dirt Bike Depot crew in Supercross. Kessler backed by Nectar Energy for the outdoor races. 33-30 were his scores. A bit further down the list, shout out to Tyler Stepek, who returned as well aboard his own Yamaha. Qualifying went pretty well for the number 314, but a DNF in the first moto was a bit of a disappointment. 32nd later in the day, Stepek will be continuing to get back in shape, continuing to get back closer to the race pace as we go east. And of course, he is a Maryland boy, so I'm sure he's probably excited for some of these eastern races. Budds Creek, of course, his home track. We'll see what Tyler can do through the rest of 2026. Now we resume our Canadian Corner segment of the show. Yep, we're still dedicating some time to those in the Canadian Motocross Series. In the 450 class, not as much American representation, of course. We'll throw in Harry Koulis as well, since he raced here the last couple summers. The Estonia native, second place once again this weekend at Prairie Hill MX in Pilot Mound, Manitoba. 3-2 for second. Harry running for Red Bull KTM Canada, their factory organization up there. In terms of Americans, Jordan Bees in 12th. The Bees brothers both racing this weekend. Jordan on a 450, 12-13 were his scores for the weekend. Also, shout out to the Canadian Jess Pettis, one of the top racers up there, was injured in the second moto. Seemed like an ACL. It was a knee injury of some sorts. Not sure what the official diagnosis is, but either way, heal up Jess. We hope to see him back on track soon. In the 250 class, however, though, it has been an MX 101 Yamaha season so far. In round one, it was Preston Kilroy, the defending champion from Wyoming, getting the job done. And it seems like MX 101 likes their racers from Wyoming, because the second member of the team is from Wyoming, Minnesota. Yeah, there's a town in Minnesota called Wyoming. But Ryder Malinowski, who we know from the SMX Next division competing with the Club MX Yamaha team here in the States, he went 1-1, a brilliant showing for Malinowski, one of the young up-and-coming stars of the sport. Not only does he have an SMX Next win at St. Louis last year, now he has a Canadian national overall victory, 1-1, terrific performance for Ryder. Just behind him on the Walton Kawasaki, Vincent Way, of course, the second generation racer. Yes, he's not a privateer when he competes over an SMX Next, but shout out to Vincent and his teammate Cade Johnson as well. Went 2-2 and 4-4 respectively. So it was MX 101, Walton Kawasaki, MX 101, and another Kawasaki at the top of the order. Looking a bit further down, Josh Boaz, 12-7 for ninth in his second race in the 250 division. Boaz competing aboard, it shows a KTM on the website this weekend, although I know he was on a Husqvarna machine at round one. But shout out to Josh competing in the 250 division. He will be one to watch throughout the rest of the year as well. Then moving on a little bit further in the field, I mentioned Jordan Beast. Carter Beast, his brother, was racing on his familiar Kawasaki. 13-12 for 12th. Very similar results. Jordan went 12-13. Carter 13-12. Funny parallel between the brothers there. I mentioned Kale Kuchnicki last week. He scored some more points, 16th in the first moto, but 22nd, a little bit shy later in the day. Those are some of your top performers for over in Canada this weekend. Their next round of action will be on June 28th. They will actually be off this weekend. Saint-Gilles will be the next round in Quebec, June 28th. That, of course, will be the off weekend for AMA Pro Motocross between High Point and Redbud. Then, of course, they will run Gopher Dunes on July 5th, the day after Redbud. Riverglade MX on July 12th, which will be the day after the Southwick National. We may see some overlap there as well. And the series will continue on and wrap up later in the year at Walton Raceway on August 16th. And before we conclude, also shout out to Jamie Astudillo, who is competing aboard the Priority MX Gas Gas. She is the defending Canadian WMX Women's Champion, of course. She races here in America a good bit as well. Raced the full WMX campaign last year, part on her own, part for the Dirt Bike Depot KTM crew. Jamie went 1-1 on Sunday. Jordan Jarvis, who won the opening round, went 2-2. So it could be a showdown between those two for the championship this season. Astudillo and Jarvis. Let's see who walks away victorious. This has been the Unsung Heroes of Thunder Valley. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Also, big thank you once again to Anton Nordstrom for his appearance on the show. Be sure to support him, support the MotoWhips racing crew, maybe help him out, get him to some of these races this summer. Thank you for listening. Be sure to spread the word. Be sure to tell a friend about our show and to promote some of the privateer and underdog racers of the sport. Enjoy your Father's Day weekend, everybody. Be sure to say thank you to your dads and enjoy your weekend watching racing, whether you're at the track or watching from home. The High Point National this weekend, the Country Club of Motocross.